The carbo load.
Over the years, one of the questions I've heard a lot is people asking if it's better to exercise on an empty stomach in a fasted state or after you've eaten something and have some fuel in your system. And the answer to that is it depends. It depends on what your goals are. Now, there's lots of reasons we eat aside from just pleasure and survival. Some people eat to have a healthier life, to improve their health. Some people eat to lose weight, some to gain weight if they're trying to bulk. And then some want to specifically improve their performance in a particular sport or activity, and so they're going to eat a certain way. Each of these will have a different approach to how you're going to eat. Now, it is true if you're in a fasted state, you're going to have lower levels of glycogen and insulin, and your body's going to fuel off of fat quicker that way. However, there's more to it than that, and I've seen contradicting studies and things that can make it a little bit muddy, the water on this. But I think a better question to ask is, how do you feel if you exercise on an empty stomach? Do you feel weak and lethargic and dizzy? Is it difficult for you to do? Is it unpleasant? That's an important thing to consider. The reason that's important is because we are all different in so many different ways. Obviously, basic science applies to everyone. However, there are some differences between us. For instance, when I was in high school, if I had a basketball game, I could not eat anything 4 hours before the game, or I would just have these horrible, stomach cramps and stomach pains if I did.
Oh, Alfredo sauce. I'm getting a stitch. Ah.
On the other hand, I had a teammate. I'd look an hour before the game, he'd be up in the bleachers eating a Whopper and fries and soda pop, and he could play just fine. It didn't impact him at all, just a short amount of time before the game. So again, that shows a lot of people are different. You got to learn what works for you. So let's talk about some of the reasons people eat the way they do. For most people, I've encountered they're always trying to lose weight. They're trying to decrease their calories, be in an energy deficit instead of a surplus. Unlike someone that's trying to bulk and gain weight, they've got to have a surplus of calories to build muscle. Both of these groups, though, they're watching their calories, they're watching their macros, and then if you compare that to someone that's doing it specifically for sport performance, you'll see a couple things different there. They're just going to do whatever will help them perform at the highest level of their activity. So with eating for sports performance, this is an important one. Obviously, it's healthier if you're going to have breakfast to have maybe bran flakes or grape nuts or some of those unglamorous cereals. Typically, we think of those as being better for us than the sugary ones. But if I'm going to run a 5K, there's no way I'm going to eat some high fiber, high fat, high protein thing right before. It's going to kill your stomach. So it's better to have a high glycemic, easy to digest. So I'll have frosted flakes or corn flakes or something easy like that I can digest quick. Yogurt, fruit, bagel, things like that. So if you're looking to improve your performance and eat accordingly for that, depending on the activity you do, for instance, if you're doing a 5K, that's not, unlike Michael Scott here, that's something you don't need to carb load for. And anytime you're exercising, unless it's like a long endurance thing, like a triathlon or marathon, things like that, you don't need to carb load. You probably don't need sports drinks if you're just going to the gym for 45 minutes to lift weights or to go do something for half an hour. In fact, one of my first videos I did was about sports drinks, and if they're necessary, you should look that up to get more details on that topic. But when it comes to nutrition, people are going to want to do what will give them the best advantage, help them perform at their best ability. So a story that illustrates the importance of sports nutrition is the first time I ran a Spartan race. It was a Spartan Beast, which is approximately 12 to 13 miles up in the mountains, all kinds of obstacles you're doing during it. So it takes a good while. Anyway, I was excited for that. I had a good race. Afterwards, I totally wanted to do it again. So the next year I signed up for it. I'd been training. I was more familiar with it. The weather the next year was slightly cooler. I just had all these things in my favor. But when I got to the starting line, I realized I had forgotten some of my nutrition that I usually keep in plastic baggies to give you some energy along the way. And I thought, it's okay. When I get to the water stations, last year they had some like little fruit snacks and things like that. I'm sure I can get some energy from that. Anyway, as I got to each aid station and each water station, all they had is cups of water and a bottle of Morton salt, just to insult you like you're going to take that for electrolytes. Anyway, it was super stressful because there was nothing, and about 2 hours into it, just dying. And I had water, but I had no energy left. And that was one of the most difficult races I've ever done. And despite having trained and know what I was getting into and being prepared for it, except for the nutrition, I finished half an hour slower than I did my first year trying it. And this picture here shows the difference in my face each year. You can kind of see, that tells a story of how I'm feeling finishing that. So again, it's important that you fuel your body accordingly to the type of activity you're going to be doing for the results you want. And that's why when you see professionals or people that are elite in these sports, they understand that. They know their body. They know when they need to take a water break or take some gel or whatever it is to keep their energy levels up. Another area you can see the importance of this is in mixed martial arts and boxing and wrestling. When people are trying to do a weight cut to get in a certain weight class, sometimes people, when they're going down, they just make some crazy weight cuts. They're losing a lot of weight and they look like a skeleton, a shell of themselves by the time they step on the scale the night before. This is a picture of Conor McGregor. This is a little deceptive. These are 3 months apart, so this is him fighting in different weight classes, but you can see the difference, what that can do to you. But I've seen many athletes the night before, they just got the sunken eyes, they just look skinny, horrible. The next night though, within 24 hours, it's amazing. They've been totally hydrated. They'll gain 10 plus pounds with all the food and water they're taking in to get their body back into a better state. So in my opinion, when it comes to MMA and people cutting weight hard like this, I think that's far more dangerous than any violence they're going to experience in the ring from their opponent. So it's obvious, it's important to fuel your body. You perform better if you have the energy and you're hydrated and have that. One exception to this I can think of though is Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the great centers of the NBA of all time. He was a devout Muslim, and when he was playing these games, sometimes the games would come up on Ramadan and he's not able to eat from morning till night. And so he's in a fasted state and they're playing these like playoff games, NBA games, high intensity against other people, and he still held his own. I don't know how he did that. So despite Hakeem playing in a fasted state, back in January of 1997, he played for 39 minutes in the game. He scored 32 points, had 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, and 5 blocks against the Chicago Bulls, no less. It's just like insane stat line. For most of us, we want to be well hydrated and have the nutrition we need in order to perform well. So back to the question, should you exercise on an empty stomach? It depends. If it works for you, if it helps you and you feel like you're losing weight, if that's your goal, that's great. But for most of us, we're going to want to make sure we have proper nutrition and hydration before, during, and after any exercise. The key though is to figure out what works for you, because if you can be consistent, and if you're not hating exercise because you're weak and tired and it's painful for you, but if you can manage it well with proper nutrition and hydration, it's going to make all the difference. So feel free in the comments. I'd love to hear if there's any tips or tricks you guys have that have helped you with your performance in sports with nutrition. Also, if there's any nightmare stories of things you've done wrong that made it more difficult. Stay tuned for more videos in the future, and we'll see you next time.